The swamp was silent except for the distant croak of frogs and the slow ripple of muddy water. But beneath that silence lurked danger. A crocodile's eyes broke the surface, glowing like two embers in the twilight. And just a few feet away, tangled in roots, bleeding and terrified, was a woman who didn't belong there. She was dressed in torn business clothes, her heels lost in the muck, her breaths shallow. And the man who found her was not a rescuer by trade. He was a single dad, worn down by life, carrying burdens far heavier than his frame should allow. He had no idea that saving her life tonight would change his daughter's future forever. That this injured stranger, this powerful CEO, would one day make his little girl's dream soar higher than the skies themselves. If you're already feeling hooked, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Universe, where real stories of courage, love, and second chances come alive every day. The story Ethan Cole was a man of quiet endurance. Every scar on his hands told the story of sacrifice. He had once dreamed of becoming an engineer, of building bridges and skyscrapers that would outlast him. But life had other plans. His wife passed away when their daughter Lily was only 5, leaving him to raise her alone. Now, years later, he lived on the edge of a swamp town, working odd jobs, fixing boats, chopping wood, mending fishing nets. Just enough to keep food on the table and pay for Lily's schooling. He never complained. His world revolved around his little girl. Lily was 9. But her eyes held the vastness of a sky unbound. She loved planes. Every day, she drew pictures of wings and engines, scribbled little notes about pilots, and told her father, "Daddy, one day I'll fly higher than the clouds." Ethan always smiled, but inside, he wondered how he'd ever afford to make such dreams possible. That night, as the sun drowned in crimson across the horizon, Ethan heard a strange cry from the swamp. It wasn't the cry of an animal. It was sharper, desperate, a human voice. He grabbed his lantern and stick, his instincts warning him of danger. But something in that cry pulled him forward. Wading through reeds and mud, he finally saw her. A woman in a torn white blouse, her leg gashed, her face pale from shock. She was surrounded by the slow, moving ripples of the swamp, and just beyond her the unmistakable outline of a crocodile. "Stay still," Ethan hissed, his voice steady but urgent. The woman gasped, trying to pull herself free from the roots, but the movement stirred the water. The crocodile surged closer, its armored back slicing through the murk. Without a second thought, Ethan leaped into the water. He jabbed the stick into the swamp, slamming it against the predator's snout. The croc hissed, snapping its jaws, but Ethan held his ground, thrusting again and again, until it slid back into the shadows. "Come on," he growled, pulling the woman free and hoisting her over his shoulder. She was trembling, whispering something about not letting them find her. But Ethan had no time to ask questions. He carried her back through the swamp, his boots sinking deep, his muscles burning. When they reached his cabin, lit only by a flickering lantern, he laid her down gently on his old couch. "Stay with me," he muttered, grabbing a rag to stop the bleeding. "You'll be okay." She winced but nodded, her voice weak. Why did you help me?" Ethan met her eyes. They were sharp, intelligent, filled with a kind of pride she hadn't let go of despite her pain. "Because you needed me. That's enough." Her name was Victoria Hale. Ethan didn't know it yet, but she was the CEO of one of the largest aviation companies in the country. She had been flying back from a board meeting when her private jet went down in the outskirts of the swamp. The pilot had died on impact, and she had crawled out of the wreckage, dazed and broken, chased by reporters and corporate vultures who would do anything to see her fail. She ran until she collapsed here. At first, Ethan thought she was just another city woman lost where she didn't belong. But as the night went on, he noticed the way she carried herself. Even in weakness, her words had weight. She wasn't a victim. She was someone used to commanding worlds far bigger than his. But to Lily, she was simply the lady with the hurt leg. The next morning, Lily peeked around the couch, her big eyes wide. "Daddy, who is she?" "She's someone who needs our help," Ethan said gently. Victoria tried to sit up, forcing a polite smile. "Hello, sweetheart," and that was the beginning. Days passed. Victoria stayed at their cabin while Ethan nursed her wounds. She was impatient, restless, unused to being grounded. But in Lily's company, something inside her softened. The little girl showed her the drawings of airplanes, explaining each detail with infectious passion. Victoria listened, truly listened, in a way most adults never did. "You love planes, don't you?" "One day I'll be a pilot," Lily said proudly. "I want to soar above everything." Victoria's heart ached. She saw her younger self in that little girl, the hunger for more, the dream that seemed impossible because of circumstances. For the first time in years, she felt something stir inside her, a reminder of why she had fought so hard to build her empire in the first place. Meanwhile, Ethan and Victoria argued more than once. He didn't care who she was. To him, she was just another stubborn guest who refused to rest. "You're not invincible," he said one night, adjusting her bandages. "And you're not my keeper," she shot back. "Maybe not. But my daughter looks up to you now. Don't let her down." That silenced her. For the first time, someone had spoken to her not as a CEO, not as a powerful woman, but as a human being with responsibility beyond herself. As Victoria healed, Ethan noticed something strange. Black SUVs began circling near the swamp. Men in suits asked questions around town. Victoria finally confessed. "They're after me. Rivals, shareholders who want me gone. If they find me before I recover my company, my people, everything I built, it will collapse." Ethan's jaw clenched. He didn't fully understand the world she came from, but he knew what it meant to protect someone. And now, he had to protect her. So the humble single dad who once thought his life was too small found himself shielding a CEO from the claws of betrayal. He kept her hidden, taught her how to move quietly in the swamp, and when danger came too close, he stood between it and her. And in return, Victoria saw something in Ethan she had never seen in the boardroom: honor without expectation, sacrifice without reward. Weeks later, when she was strong enough to leave, she stood before Ethan and Lily with tears she tried to hide. "I owe you my life," she said softly. "But more than that, I owe you hope. You reminded me what matters." She hugged Lily tightly. "And you, young lady, reminded me of a dream I almost forgot." Ethan thought that was the end, that she'd return to her glass towers and never look back. But he was wrong. A month later, a letter arrived. Inside was a golden envelope addressed to Lily. It was an invitation to the headquarters of Hale Aviation. And when they arrived, dressed in their best, Lily's jaw dropped. Dozens of pilots, engineers, and staff greeted her like she was royalty. And then Victoria herself appeared, radiant, powerful, but smiling like the same woman they'd known at the cabin. She knelt before Lily, handing her a small pilot's cap. "This is for you," she whispered, "because dreams like yours should never be grounded." That day, Victoria announced a new scholarship program for underprivileged children who dreamed of aviation. She named it after Lily. Ethan stood in the crowd, overwhelmed, watching his daughter's eyes light up as if the whole sky had opened just for her. And in that moment, he realized something. Saving Victoria hadn't just changed her life, it had changed theirs too. Before we reach the final note of this story, I want to remind you, if this journey has touched your heart, please like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Universe. Every story we share here is about the power of kindness and second chances, and your support helps keep these stories soaring. Ending message: the swamp that night had nearly swallowed hope. But out of its shadows rose something greater. A bond between a weary father, a dream-filled daughter, and a woman rediscovering her purpose. Sometimes, the lives we save aren't just about survival. They ripple outward, lifting others higher than we ever imagined. Because kindness, no matter where it begins, in a swamp, in a stranger's home, in the smallest act of courage, has the power to make dreams take flight. And for Lily, the little girl who wanted to soar, the sky was no longer a faraway dream. It was waiting wide open because one single act of kindness had built her wings.